Okay, so I'm always talking about the bullying that happened to me. I rarely ever talk about the bullying that I did to other people because I learned it from what was happening to me. But when I was in the seventh grade, there was this girl who transferred in. I think her name was Christina. I think. This is when we were living in the projects. This was the first time I did seventh grade because I failed it the first time. Is that right? Yes. I was like 12 years old. This was right before we moved out of the projects. And she was a little white girl with red hair. We had never seen at my school anybody with red hair. And so they was calling her the devil girl and everything. All kind of weird stuff. Anyway, we were riding on the bus and somebody was telling me some, I don't know, some kind of rumors or whatever about her. It was a bunch of childhood gossip. Anyway, so I was standing outside her building one time, and I used to be friends with this other girl that lived in her building named Jennifer. Jennifer Luck. Me and her used to be the coolest friends until her mother had called me a nigger. Hard R. And so it's funny now. The shit was not funny back then. She said, "What are you having that nigger in my house for?" Anyway, back to Christina. So I was sitting outside the building and I was making fun of Christina one day. And she was crying. She just kept crying. She's like, "I don't know why you being so mean to me." I was like, "Well, they said you take hot dogs and freeze them and stick it in your coochie." And she's like, "No, I would not do that. That's not even real." Her mother was standing at the door. She just kept telling her, "Christina, come in the house. Just come in the house." She's like, "No, I would never do nothing like that. It is so gross." I mean, just think about that. I was like, "Well, that's what they said. That you be freezing hot dogs and put them in your coochie." When I say the shit wasn't funny when we was kids, but when I think back, the first time I thought about this, how wrong I was. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said a cruel shit to her." Now that I'm saying it out loud, the shit is funny because it's ridiculous. But she was standing there crying and crying, and then she went inside. And then I think like a few months after that, they moved away from the projects, and I never saw her again. So now, right now, if somebody, one of my bullies, was to sit online and tell some shit that they did to me, and it was like, "Oh my god, we were so mean to this dude, to this gay dude," and it was laughing about it. It would be so wrong. So it's not right that I'm laughing about it right now. But I just okay, so I'm wrong for laughing. Shit. Well, that's not the last one. There's another one. I'll tell it later. Okay, so the other time that I contributed to bullying was this girl. It's a girl. Girls. Did I ever do anything to any guys? I don't think so. So that should give you some insight into my psychology because I knew the girls really couldn't do anything back to me the way the guys did. But it was another girl. I think her name was Jacosta. This was the second time I was in seventh grade. And she didn't have any hair. She had like one strip of hair right here, and then she had like a strip that went like around here, and then it was weird, and we couldn't figure it out. But she used to always wear wigs to work to school, and in seventh grade, wearing wigs in the '90s was super weird. So we used to make fun of her all the time. I don't think I saw anybody ever snatch her wig up, but she used to cry all the time. And I remember one day I was making fun of her, and I was like, "Your wig's on crooked." And she's like, it's not a wig, it's my real hair. She would never admit that it was a wig. And her skin looked really, really weird. Now that as an adult, I know why she never had any hair and she was always missed school. It's because she had either leukemia or cancer and she was going through chemotherapy. So when I was like, this was when I was living in Texas on one of my road trips, going to do something I had no business doing. I was just reevaluating my life, going through some shit in my head, just running through the facts, as an adult, of some of the shit that I used to do when I was a kid. The Christina situation was one of them when I knew that was wrong. Okay, so I come to realize that on the interstate, on I-35, going through Oklahoma. And so on this same trip, I'm assuming, either that or Arkansas, one of the two, I realized the shit that I did to Yokasta. I was like, oh my fucking God, that girl was going through chemo. Because it made her, when you go, the only reason I knew that is because I have a cousin, or had a cousin, may she rest in peace, Isha, who just passed away not too long ago she had like a throat cancer. And she used to go through chemo. And I remember her skin changing it looked different from when we were kids compared to after she started going through chemo, because she lived with us the whole time she was going through chemo. So I saw the change from what she was to post chemo. And so it clicked in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, this girl was in junior high school going through chemo, wearing wigs and shit to school. And baby, they was letting her ass have it. She was getting it worse than I was. Now, I was getting it bad because I was the only fag. And I was looking slightly like I could. This is the same school, as a matter of fact, that they put that feminine powder in my locker. This is that same school. So they're letting me have it. The feminine powder in the locker is indication of how they was letting me have it. Now, she, with her wigs, got it worse than I did. It was bad. And I added to that. So yeah. But by the time I got to junior high, I wasn't really in a position to be making fun of somebody else. Did I? I don't think I did. I might have giggled at some shit that somebody else said, but at that point I wasn't putting it back out there the way it was being given to me. Anyway, I hope she's okay wherever she's at. Both of them. I'm sure Christina is. But, I don't know about Yokasta. I hope she is. Oh, I take that back. I saw her once. Oh, I almost forgot. I saw her as a desk clerk at a hotel downtown, Nashville. I think it was a DoubleTree. And I was like, hey, do you remember me from high school? I remember she said yes. And then I apologized for what I said. Okay. I gotta go. Okay, so there was one other time when I had bullied someone. It was in the 7th grade again. The first time I went through 7th grade, it was a white girl, but I felt validated in what I did. Validated is the word. I didn't feel guilt for what I did at first, even though I shouldn't have did it. Okay, so the girl, she served very much the coal miner's daughter type of. Remember, I'm growing up in Nashville at the time. Okay. So, she had like sandy brown hair, but it was a 1980s cut, like bangs that looked kind of like this, but then the rest of this was kind of like that. And it was like a sandy brown color, and then she had this really bad acne. Like real bad, and it wasn't like. You know how normally the bad acne is centered right here? No, it was like all over her face. It was real bad. And it was discolored too. But I never made fun of her. Everybody else did. So then one day I think it was in math class or social studies. And somebody had made fun of me. And so she jumped on the bandwagon And she made fun of me too. So I said, oh, okay, that's the game you want to play. Because at first it was very much, oh, they make fun of both of us, so we're going to, have some sort of silent pact that we're not going to say anything about each other ever. So that day she jumped on the bandwagon with them, the straights, the colored straights who were letting me have it. So one day we was in a lunch line or something, and she had bad teeth too, and they were beyond yellow. They it was one shade above brown. But if it's brown, then that means that the teeth were not good. It was still she still had like an inch of life left in her teeth, and they were that yellow, and they were crooked in the front. She said something to me, and I made fun of her teeth. No, she made fun of me in the lunch line. So when we got to the room, everybody was sitting in a circle, and I made fun of her teeth, and I saw her retreat internally, turn around and disconnect herself from the group. So good. So now you know how I felt. This is what I'm thinking in my head. Now you know how I felt when you said what you said about me when you shouldn't have. And she never spoke to me or even looked in my direction again for the rest of the year. But then, like years later, like when I was in high school, when people let me have it, I was like, I'm trying to figure out like, is what I'm experiencing that because it came back to me? But then I was like, no, because she shouldn't have said nothing to me to begin with. But just because someone does something to you, that does not give you license to do it back to them. You're supposed to be the better person in the equation, which I didn't know this at the time because I was young. So it was a learning experience, which I would not do now. But back then, I did. And so I felt guilty because I didn't know that I shouldn't have said anything to her. But I don't know. Hopefully she didn't take it too bad and it's like not affecting her now. Like how I see the stuff affecting me and I'm like almost 50. So anyway, I think that was the last one. I think it was 3 and all of them were female. None of them male. So that lets you know I wasn't worth a quarter. I wasn't worth shit.